Hi, everyone. So, as some of you may know, May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and I want to share with you a experience that I had in clinic a while ago that I think is relevant. So, I had a patient come in sometime last year, a gentleman probably in his, I want to say, late 60s or so, and he came in with some digestive issues and pain. And this didn't stem from any kind of disease like IBS or diverticulitis or something like that. Wasn't from an accident, but he had some pretty serious issues. Essentially, he had uh, a colostomy bag to help with the excretion. And during his intake, I was asking him, medical history related to that. So he said maybe half a year prior or so, he had a string of incidents that precipitated a medical emergency. So, from my recollection, he had a couple of things back to back. One was that he had a death in his family, another that he received or he was working on a freelance project and he had lost one of his contracts, so he had a significant reduction in income, and the other one that he received an eviction notice. So that's a lot to deal with. You can imagine just experiencing one of those things would put a lot of pressure on someone, but all three in sequence, that's a lot for one person to deal with. And from my memory of his background information, he didn't have an immediate family, he lived on his own. So this caused him a lot of stress. And a short time later, maybe about a week or so, I remember after he had these incidents, he had a medical emergency. He was experiencing a lot of abdominal pain. Went to the hospital, emergency. He had a rupture in his bowel, and that's how he ended up having the colostomy bag. So he was coming for me for treatment, several months afterwards for abdominal discomfort, but he was, starting to feel better again. And the reason I bring this up, well, because it's directly tied to stress, mental health, and how it affects us. I think it's a very relevant, and I just wanted to bring this to attention that how what we're feeling, particularly in moments of high stress and anxiety, it's not just a mental. It has a very, very direct connection on a physiological level. Um, Outside the brain, the biggest collection of neurons is in our gut, right? Medically known as the enteric nervous system, and it operates independently, but also it interacts with our brain through the central nervous system via the vagus nerve, which travels from the brain down to the lungs and into our GI tract. So the enteric nervous system helps regulate metabolism, the release of hormones, digestion, and when we're because of that connection under stress, we it has an effect on our mental state as well. Now, you probably know during stress we have a elevation of cortisol. Now, people blame cortisol for a lot of things, but it has a very everyday function. It in the morning it peaks to help us kind of be energized and deal with the day, and it also raises during levels of stress to help regulate inflammation. And that's what it's supposed to do. So cortisol in itself isn't bad, but when it's elevated and sustained, that can be problematic, right? Because it can inhibit our blood sugar levels. It can cause inflammation if it's sustained. And that's what maybe that's one of the things that happened to this gentleman. Again, I don't have like his blood test from that time, but like I was mentioning before, he had three separate incidents cumulatively that are a lot to deal with. And I think my kind of assessment is that he didn't have a vehicle or a way of releasing or addressing this stress and kind of accumulated or stayed building inside of him until it literally ruptured a bowel. this is a kind of a worst case scenario. I'm not saying that everybody has stress is gonna have this response, but I'm just saying, the point I'm trying to make is that when we don't have a functional way of dealing with stress, it manifests physically. It's, that brain gut connection is very real. So I'm just saying it's not something to neglect. I I'm not going to say that there's one way to deal with it. If you have your own outlet for managing stress, that whatever that may be, it could be exercise, it could be, your hobby, maybe you're going for a walk, or you enjoy the arts, music, painting, whatever it is, or, just whatever outlet you have. It's very important that we have a way to channel that energy, because it does kind of linger, and it can have adverse effects. So I just wanted to share that and say, if you're experiencing those things, to you know try and get support from other people, or look for a way to manage and channel it so that you have a conduit to release it. All right, everybody. I just wanted to share that. Hope you're all in good health. Have a great day.